Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the panel for being here. AM radio is a vital community service. I'm an avid listener and sometimes guest on our excellent local stations. WJR out of Detroit, WLEN, which is a FM station, but local to my own hometown, WWJ, WKHM, WCSR, AM radio is some of the last truly local content available. And preserving consumer access to that content is necessary. Satellite certainly won't advertise local stores in my district. I'm also a strong advocate for consumer choice. The customer should drive what companies do and what options they have for their products. And I know you all are listening. I've heard from many of my constituents, and they want to continue having AM radio in their vehicles. I think we can find a solution, at least I hope we can, find a solution that works for everyone but remains flexible for the future, because the future is flexible. Ms. Span Cooper, my district is quite rural. I grew up in Chicago, but I'm delighted to be living in a rural area now. One of the biggest problems in many areas is not having a reliable internet connection. Until we get connected, why is AM radio important to those communities, rural communities in particular?
Thank you for your question, Congressman. I think many of us assume that everybody lives in big cities like Chicago, and they don't. A wide swath of American people live in rural communities where the technology infrastructure may not be there, where they are underserved. People assume that we all have big cell phones. We don't. And so AM radio serves those constituents. It's their lifeline. And it's important to entertain them. Sports, religion, talk, information for communities is there. But in cases where there are storms and critical things that happen, it is the backbone of those communities in terms of being in connection with those constituents.
Thank you. We all know that emergency alerts come through multiple devices. That's how they're supposed to work. My cell phone buzzes quite often. We're not always tuned into AM or FM radio, so the buzzing on our phones and TVs get our attention. Mr. Hosteen, what role does AM radio play after those initial alerts? I'm sure not all of your nation has flip phones, especially younger people. If the worst is to happen and wireless and broadcast service was disrupted nationwide, how does AM offer resiliency in times of disaster?
Thank you for that, Congressman. Really, I think I mentioned earlier, even if a notification is pushed through a phone, that notification is not being transmitted in our native language. And for a lot of our
That's
elders,
what I wanted you to say again. I mean, that is a very unique situation. I've heard you talk about all of the rest of it, but that I wanted you to say that again, because a lot of us don't think that way. You know, I'm not expecting to be hearing things in Swedish. I wouldn't understand it anyway. But a Navajo nation, how you've explained it today, that's important to understand. Thank you. I want to find a long-term solution. NHTSA has created a lot. I'm not sure we want to add to that without carefully thinking. Mr. Bozzella, I've experienced radio interference by just plugging in my cell phone into my car charger. Things are changing. What options are there to continue having full access to AM radio in vehicles, including those in times of emergency?
Yes, thank you, Congressman. First, 99% or more of vehicles in the marketplace today and on the road today have analog AM radio in them. So I think that's important to recognize. Customers have choices today. Beyond that, for the very few vehicles that maybe don't have analog AM radio in them today, we're going to make sure that if in front of any paywall and completely for free, that broadcast emergency alerts will come through. I want to also make sure you're aware, and the committee is aware, that we think customers should be notified at the point of sale about whether a car does have analog AM radio, so that a customer can make an informed choice. And third, if customers want analog AM radio, Ms. Van Cooper mentioned crank and battery radios. I think those are incredibly important in emergencies where we're often told by FEMA to get out of the vehicle. Those types of products can be taken out of the vehicle in cases of emergency, and if customers want them, automakers are prepared to provide them in vehicles that don't have analog AM radio in them.
Thank you. My time has expired, but we will remember those commitments. Thank you.